about that. So welcome, welcome. Look at all the happy feet people coming in. I can tell they're happy, even though I just see their profile pictures. I can tell they're happy because it's Friday, right? As we were talking about, they might not be so happy about the weather heading their way wherever they happen to be. So if you want to, as you're coming in, if you want to say hello to everybody and hey, if you want to tell us how bad your weather is, we'll be doing lots of chatting today. You have an amazing group of people here today to have a lovely conversation with you. This one's not going to be as much presentation, perhaps, as some of the ones earlier in the week. So if you were here with us earlier in the week, hey, let us know that in the chat too. Just say yes, I was here, or tell us something that you found really helpful. We had some amazing speakers. We were just talking about the fact that this session is being recorded, as were all of the other sessions earlier in the week. And we are hurriedly getting those videos all ready for you, and you'll be able to access those both on the PPW website at usdla.org, as well as over at usdla.tv, which is our YouTube channel. And you can see all the public policy videos, as well as a whole host of other amazing content from speakers at other previous events. Actually, I'm looking at my screen right now, and several of the people who are speaking today actually have done some very nice webinars for us. So you can see access to those. So um, welcome, welcome, welcome. I think I got everybody in the door now. So I just want to officially welcome all of our attendees for joining us today. And now I want to welcome our amazing panel, where each of them can do a little more formal introduction of themselves. But basically, we have the leaders of our state chapters. And I'm going to start with our state chapter chair at USDLA. That's Erica Bell. And I'll turn it over to her, and then she can pass the torch around. So thank you all for being here today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Valerie. I'm so happy to be here. And as we sit here in Tennessee awaiting the wonderful winter snow, excited to start the winter snow break with each of you. So our campus is already closed for Monday and Tuesday in anticipation. So it's been an exciting few days for us here. But as Valerie mentioned, I am Erica Bell, Tennessee State Chapter Chair, and love that we have our other state chapter leads with us today. And I'm excited that you're going to have time to get to meet each of them a little bit more individually. So I'm going to pass the floor to Michele.
I am Michele Carlisle. I am the Ohio's chapter chair for this year, and I am currently in New Philadelphia, Ohio. And if you're not familiar with where New Philadelphia, Ohio is, we affectionately say it is the southern tip of Northeast Ohio. We get the benefit of lake effect snows when it dips southern enough, and we also get the I-70 southern storms, and they sometimes converge upon themselves at the same time. We're ready for it. I mean, we're not unused to this, and so we won't cancel school until probably Sunday night, but it's okay. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to try to share uh, some of what is rapidly moving targets and changes in the state of Ohio surrounding public education, and excited to hear what others have to share as well. Thanks for having me.
Emily, how about you?
Sure. So Emily Thompson, I am the president of the Missouri Distance Learning Association, our state chapter here in Missouri, and we're roughly, I think, 42 members strong or so at this time. My background, I've been at Arizona State University previously and University of Georgia previously, but now since 2016, I'm now at Washington University in St. Louis. So we also are looking at some lovely snowfall in between 5 to 12 inches. We'll see how much we get. And I'm joining today from a private institution. So my take on this may be quite different, but again, with some background at state institutions. And I'm really interested in hearing from Erica and Michele as our experts on the public side of the house.
Wonderful. Valerie, I don't know, has Angie joined us?
No, I haven't seen her.
Okay.
All right.
I've been watching for her, but if she does, I will pop in and make sure that you're alerted that she
Wonderful.
has joined us.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will introduce myself. I'm Alexandra Salas, and I'm the president of the DelMarVa Digital Learning Association. We're located in Delaware, and I will be representing Delaware this afternoon, sharing some highlights and some of the concerns that I'm sure overlap with my other state colleagues. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm also the public policy chair at USDLA, and this is the culminating event to have a nice casual conversation about some of the issues that affect us after a week of wonderful presentations from thought leaders in this space. So thank you for joining us. So should we start with our first question, or the overarching question? Well, I mean, first, I just would like to preface by saying that, we have members here from different states, and that we recognize some of the top issues that a lot of states are looking at. So while we're sharing our own perspectives, the goal is to kind of learn from one another and commiserate on some of the similar pain points, and maybe be able to share some insight and hope and ideas for what we can do in our own states. In doing a little bit of research, some of the top six recurring priorities that states are looking at are funding sustainability. We have the teacher shortages, mental health, which is a concern across, the board as a priority, and also learning, recovery, and accountability, as well as governance reforms, and then digital equity. I left that for last because we are online, and for us, I think, even though all the issues are important, it emerges from how it's impacting students online. So, that's just kind of my little intro. And so our overarching question that we wanted to speak to you today about, or just kind of share, is like, what are the top public policy issues currently impacting digital learning access across K through 12 and higher education? Where do we see the biggest opportunity and progress in the next 12 months? So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. So Erica, would you like to start?
Absolutely. So I would say in Tennessee, one of the most consequential digital learning issues sits at the intersection of expanding our virtual options, but also engaging with AI policy and broadband and device access, because we still are very rural here. But also the evolving expectations for institutional accountability and financial readiness. Our challenge, but also our opportunity, is to ensure these policies drive high quality, well-supported learning experiences instead of just new layers of compliance. Everybody smiles and laughs at that. So over the next 12 months, the biggest opportunity is for us to really connect these strands: AI guidance, digital equity funding, online program quality, navigating SARA and licensure expectations, and practical infrastructure solutions so that learners can experience a coherent ecosystem rather than just a patchwork of disconnected initiatives. So I think it's an exciting time ahead. So we all put our seatbelts on, get ready for the ride. But Michele, how about in Ohio?
So in Ohio, as I'm sure in every state, in Ohio, we're facing such quickly moving changes and targets surrounding public school funding, the reduction of public school funding, multifaceted reduction of public school funding. It isn't just in this era, in this last, I suppose, 18 months, maybe feels like shorter, but could be longer. Not only have we faced challenges to what has largely been earmarked for public education being stripped away and moved over to ed choice and school choice for private voucher programs, on the backs of what had previously been earmarked and allocated for traditional K-12 public school funding, but we're also facing additional um, requirements and mandates from the state without the additional funding support. And then when you factor in things like in December, current 5-year forecast for public schools, those are required. You have to be publicly financially committed to be solvent for 5 years at a time. And just in December, 4 bills were signed into law that drastically impact what we've already levied, voted, and have been approved on in terms of collection of property taxes. And in the state of Ohio, we are unfairly and very heavily rooted in traditional property tax values to fund each of our public school districts. And that's been a long-standing issue. The first Supreme Court case was ruled in the favor of the property tax owners in 1993. And again, upheld in 1995. And here we are at the end of my career, still funding schools with property taxes, which inherently create additional funding disparity. But in trying to level that, it has created the feeling that all of a sudden some of our school districts, school boards, and treasurers are now recreating the wheel that they thought they had in place. And that impacts what we're doing in our brick and mortars. It impacts our access to what we need to educate properly and soundly. It's impacting decisions our public schools are going to be making in terms of staffing, resources, staying relevant. And we're not sure where that target's being moved to. It's very unsettling. It's very disconcerting. But along with that, I do believe that some of this responsibility to remain fiscally responsible can allow our districts to really look forward into creative educational alternatives, like strong virtual programs, like strong virtual opportunities that keep their students at their building or in their district in some capacity, while offering and leveraging additional previously unused resources like shared course models or shared language opportunities or shared advanced placement classes, or even virtual access to what we call college credit plus, but in other states, access from the high school to college credit during their high school career, whatever that looks like in each of our states. I do believe that it will allow us to leverage some of those conversations a little differently based on the needs we are facing to really maximize our opportunities while minimizing our expenditures. And I am in no way a treasurer or someone fiscally rooted. It's part of what I do day to day. And so it is a deep concern. And then along with that, the policies specifically shaping, we do have, by July, we do have to have in the state of Ohio, an AI policy that addresses responsibility, relevance, rigor, and access for students and staff. The model language is indicative that it's here. It's staying here. Our educational responsibility is to ensure we are teaching how to use it responsibly, effectively, and producing using those opportunities. So we'll be working through that model AI policy here in the next couple of months in each of our districts, I'm sure.
Thanks, Michele. Emily, how about you?
Sure. So I'm coming at this from a very different angle, again, from a private institution and really focusing at a higher education level. So here at WashU and specifically in the School of Medicine. Frankly, the focus that we have right now is on federal policies and accreditation issues, and not so much at the state level that I'm aware of. But I would just encourage folks, and this is what I think we all need to be doing, is scanning the resources out there. The ones that I look at are NC Sarah, of course, for online programs, Witchy, which is awesome, Chronicle of Higher Ed, Inside Higher Ed, and then, of course, we all may have different boards. So we may have boards of trustees, boards of regents, boards of governors, boards of curators across the different institutions. Some of these are multi-institutional compacts, right? And know who your compliance officer is at your institution. I think that's Something that I've really leaned into is to make a good relationship with the folks at your institution that are responsible for compliance in multiple areas. Typically, they may be looking at the federal level, the state level, accreditation level, right? All of those things, financial aid as well, right? Which is also federal. So that's kind of where I sit in the organization, making sure that I understand who I should be speaking with about compliance issues, and then also hopefully bringing some information back to that person or persons in case they haven't seen a particular thing that looks to be of concern or interest, specifically for online learning. So I do bring things to that individual and say, hey, have you seen this area? Is this an area of concern for us at this time? Because obviously that one person right now at our organization can't be looking at everything. So I think it's kind of a team effort. I would also say the state chapters are an awesome opportunity for us to share together within the state. Some of those common concerns we've talked about, obviously the Title II ADA compliance issues coming up. Here in the state of Missouri, we do have a new AI initiative as of January 2026 that the governor signed into action, but we may be a little bit further behind. And there's also the Missouri Department of Higher Ed and Workforce Development, which I don't know if they call it MDUDE or not, but I think that would be cool if they called it MDUDE. But you can read a little bit more about some of the initiatives that are happening through that organization. But again, it is really interesting, right? So each state has different policies, then they fit within the federal policies. So it's a complicated landscape. And so we have to rely on the resources that our institution has, including our Office of General Counsel.
Thank you, Emily. Well, I'll share from the Delaware perspective. Delaware is focusing on, a variety of issues, many of the same issues as you, but I want to just point out just AI, because AI is at the very top of the list of priorities impacting institutions, K through 12 and higher ed. But Delaware, for example, is just increasingly building its AI readiness. They're through the Department of Education and also the launch of the first state AI Institute through the University of Delaware. There's a lot of conversation in the hopes of kind of advancing open dialogue and best practices about AI tools, research, operations, and also to inform leadership. Because, the realization is that, AI is here, as we all have come to agree. But there are many questions concerning AI and how that is impacting classrooms, impacting pedagogy, how teachers teach, how teachers will have to teach, student access. And so, there's a lot of information exchange and expertise exchange to help, educators think about, ethical and safe use and responsible use of integrating AI. So the Department of Education has an AI resource hub. As I mentioned, the University of Delaware has a directive on the appropriate use of generative AI use, and then we have the first state AI Institute that has made it its mission. Similarly, there's also discussion about the use of cell phones once again overall, and again these policies are it's a fluid situation because we're kind of waiting to see what the final recommendation is, or if there will be a final recommendation. But the concern is about attention, right? Distraction and classroom norms. And, anecdotally, if, in college classrooms, as in K through 12, there are classrooms where cell phones are not allowed, right? We're kind of back to that. But we don't know how that is going to go, moving forward. So there's a lot of Delawarean policy discussions and proposed requirements related to cell phone use in schools. I think this is more K through 12 rather than higher ed, but that kind of remains. It's just an ongoing dialogue. And then I suppose that another issue, if I can have a moment to talk about it, is accessibility and inclusive digital learning. In terms of like what are the expectations. And so the Delaware has its accessibility guidelines manual that has set expectations and clear supports and accommodations. And through the University of Delaware, there are standards that reference the WCAG 2.1. And lastly, Delaware Tech, for example's digital accessibility policy reinforces institutional expectations for access and compliance, because accessibility is no longer an add-on. It is a part. It's like universal design. So it's an ongoing concern of how best to be able to provide these supports to students and what types of resources are needed to be able to sustain. So that those are just a couple of highlights on the policy front for Delaware. Does anyone want to add anything, or do we have any questions? Otherwise, I
I
can move
will
on.
jump in. And Ohio went ahead. We do have the cell phone ban, House Bill 96. House Bill
Mhm.
96 instituted the Ohio. Every school district in the state of Ohio had to develop and share a cell phone policy prior to when we came back winter break. So many schools implemented the ban or the processes for access within the classroom starting in August for practice, with full implementation as we came back from winter break. Um, in Ohio, a lot of that conversation and framework was surrounding resources such as The Anxious Generation, a book that has been on the bestseller list, talking about how cell phones and digital access have actually started to reshape the brain. And so there have been some growing pains because the policy coming down from ODU is not unusual, but for it to be the expectation that the cell phones are not accessed during the school day, there have been some growing pains, kids and parents in particular. But what's been helpful is that it is no longer one building, one school district, one principal, one superintendent making that decision. It doesn't matter. The neighboring school district also had to publish a similar policy. The neighboring building must do. So enforcement, of course, is still classroom by classroom, but I'll be anxious to see at a state level what impact is being reported. I can tell you because I still get to be in my own classrooms when I'm evaluating my language teaching staff. Uh, I walked in to do a fall evaluation, and kids had popped out card games. It was a block schedule day, so that's a lot of learning for an ASL 1 class, 124 minutes. And by design, they're academic, and then they've built in some brain break time for that visual language class. I knew that going in to evaluate, and all of a sudden I look around and there's kids playing actual communicable games. Two of them had Uno decks. One of them had Skip-Bo. We had a couple kids playing paired mahjong. And so it was a soft skill that I found very refreshing. Again, that is a very, very, very small synopsis. But they weren't looking at their screens. They were finding ways to engage with each other during that allowable downtime in the classroom. So
Yeah, that and so I think similarly, like in Delaware, there's an act to amend Title 14 of the Delaware Code relating to cell phone use in schools. So, and the act is really to adopt a policy, like, so each educator is supposed to provide input on how cell phone will be used during school hours. Because we can't deny some students have cell phones because for safety reasons to stay in touch with their parents. So to deny them use of that is, can be problematic. But if we, similar to using AI and finding creative ways to integrate the use, but it should be purposeful use. But at the same time, we also have to think of screen time, and how much screen time is beneficial or detrimental, to all of us. And I think that we have to figure out what that sweet spot is and that what the healthy balance might be so that everyone gets a break from the use of cell phones, and for it to be okay and for it not to seem as punitive for the students or for anyone who's in an environment where they have to where they're using devices. Emily, were you gonna say something? I could have sworn.
Yeah, in terms of the policy on cell phone use, we do have also a bill here in the state of Missouri, Senate Bill 68, which passed in May of 25, so it's very timely. And there's basically, it's just a policy to establish a policy is what it looks like. But I think over time this will likely change. At a minimum, the policy must prohibit students from displaying or using these devices from the beginning of the school day until the end. So that's really interesting, right? There's some subtleties there, which I think is pointing to your point around the fact that they may have them, but what does the usage look like? So yeah, I think this will be really interesting because all the states are looking at what the other states are doing, right? And we're changing and modifying over time to see what works.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I think, at least from my perspective here in Tennessee, we also had the ban. We implemented it very quickly in the fall. But that intersect of trying to meet those policies with the realities of digital learning. At my own institution, our rural students depend on their personal devices. So how do we then go do the duo authentication so that they can get into their dual enrollment courses through Canvas without that access? And what we found is each district that we work with, and we have 70 partner districts currently across the state, each district had at their purview to set their own guidelines. And so some districts said, yes, during class time, they can have access to their cell phone. Great. Some absolutely prohibit that still. And so we purchased Duo tokens so they could get past the authentication, only to find out that those tokens do not work with the students' Google Chromebooks that were purchased during COVID. And so it continues to be just an evolving problem, which limits then access to these early post-secondary opportunities for our students. So it has become a real challenge. And for my staff, which is also limited with growing enrollment, it adds additional burden to my staff and to my team. So these are all things that we really didn't have time to address before it was pushed down upon us.
So, Eric, I was going to ask before you started chatting, this is for all of you. I'm wondering, are we starting to see or more like learning environment policies now? I don't know if they're calling them that across the board, but where these are like non-tech policy issues or non-tech policies to be able to support the learner, either so embracing the idea that we need education technology, that it is part of the operation of K through 12 higher ed, the use of a learning management system, student information systems. Excuse me. So, are we seeing more non-tech policies?
I think from my perspective, it's really more about the quality of instruction. So the use of this cell phone limits the quality and that learning experience for the student. I think it's okay for students to have access to Canvas and to be in an online course, but they're looking at that cell phone as a tool that's limiting the quality of instruction that we're providing those students.
And I want to piggyback off of that. Um, some of the policies were still, and I say policy more loosely because what I'm about to refer to are more of district guidance, district responsibility and reporting. So, for instance, we're in high snow day area. Every district in the state of Ohio has up to 5 calamity days without makeup. Many districts have shifted to hours of instruction to get around that, but not all. And post COVID, um, some of the districts that I serve in my day job, not my chair job, really not knocked it out of the park. The ability to pivot on a snow day and go back to high quality virtual learning for a day. And it works. It really works well. I can point to a couple districts that just virtual learning works. The kids are ready for it. The kids are engaged in it. Students are producing, and they're able to accommodate actual in-person learning on a day where they can't get in person to the school building. And what has happened is the feeling I get is that at the state level, this push to ensure we're not relying on virtual and ensure that and to ensure that we aren't going back to a virtual education model, those frameworks and parameters for approving a live virtual instructional day for a calamity day, those are pretty specific and somewhat difficult to get approved. And for me, where I sit as a non-policymaker, just a doer, it's counterproductive. When done well, when done effectively and efficiently, we know, those of us delivering virtual instruction daily, we know the quality that's out there. We know the capability of this. We know the flexibility it provides to us. And why should we waste calamity days when we could be doing things really well? And that's a struggle. That is a barrier, when districts Blizzard bags, worksheet days have been approved, but their live virtual day is not. And so I feel like that's an area of growth and a potential for improvement, surrounding our thoughts in our state. And I'm sure other states, or Ray just said that sounds like Texas as well. And that fear of going backwards is in fact inhibiting us from growing forward.
Michele, that really resonates with me, and also I believe with the efforts that are taking place in Delaware in terms of instructional development and quality online education. But online education, I think we almost have to change our perspective that it's not something separate. Online education is integrated, embedded within, it's just education, because in a K through 12 day-to-day setting, in classroom setting, there are components where online education or online instruction can be integrated by the use of a variety of online instructional tools, using different apps, using different different learning programs that a teacher may use, the opportunity to engage with other classrooms digitally, virtual learning environments, classroom exchanges. So there's just so much integration that what may be happening if we look at this from a futures lens is this blurring of, this separation that, we will no longer be looking at these as two different modalities, but just modalities in general, and that have become part of a pedagogy where it's up to the instructor to be able to pick and choose what might be more beneficial for the learning that is to be taking place. And I think maybe part of the fear is also about attendance taking and attendance issues that may be taking place because since COVID, there also has been a perception change among families about the value of, being in class or, how, oh, well, maybe my child can do it just online or we can make it up in in a different way. So these are just generalizations, but it's a reality because there are attendance issues and in higher ed, excuse me, some institutions aren't attendance taking, but there is a move to require attendance taking because it has implications for students' financial aid. And then, and in addition to that, if students need to do a grade appeal or there's an issue, there's accountability, something to go back to. So I think that this issue has tentacles and it impacts different areas of instruction. So yeah, thank you. Erica, did you have something? I saw you nodding. I'm wondering.
No, I was just agreeing. And, at our institution, we also do a lot of hybrid classes and we have a lot of Zoom connections because we have 6 rural centers across West Tennessee. And that virtual learning experience is much different for students in those environments as well. A plug for the state chapters, but as the Tennessee state chapter chair, I got to be a guest reader for Ohio's transformative holiday storytelling in December. And so I got to read some children's storybooks to 3rd grade classrooms, 2 in Ohio and 1 in New York, all at the same time through Zoom. And if you could ask me in 2025 what was the best virtual learning transformative experience for me, it would have been that experience with those students. It didn't go through Canvas. It didn't require duo with the authentication. But how transformative it was, not just for those students, I hope, but it surely was for me, as we'll call me the instructor for that period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that there's, we have to start, we are looking at things in new ways because we have to figure out how to navigate and work with the technology. Like even with the launch, I mentioned earlier, the First State AI Institute in Delaware, this is a signal that statewide, there's this momentum to provide guidance about AI readiness and also ethical innovation because this tool is everyone has access to it and it's gotten it's really there's a snowball effect and it's making us look at existing tools to see if they are even needed, right? Or if those need to be innovated in order to continue to work with this new technology that students are using and instructors are using, and how we can use them to better what we do and to make learning environments more engaging for students and to get students more involved in their own learning. And so that they can also guide that process. But these things take time, and you need time to really think about how what can we do. So conversations like this, and at the state level, and at the classroom level, are so important because we can have deeper discussions about what's working for you, what's working for me, or heck, I don't have any idea, I want to see some ideas, how I want to see some cases and see how things are working for others. So I'm going to jump to our next question that we had here. So how is your state approaching digital equity in practice, not just in theory? And what are some of the biggest gaps?
Me in Ohio, the rurality and the access outside of the school day is still a problem locally where I physically live. The three school districts that touch each other, they're still at about a 20 to 23% inability to get high quality internet in their home. I didn't say affordability. I didn't say choosing. If they could spend $500 a month, they could not get it. The fiber doesn't go that far. The satellite's obstructed. It's not available. And we still struggle with that. And we've been at this for longer than 25 years. Senator Zach Space, no longer at US Senate, but is from Dover, Ohio. And he was a driver behind rural internet access. And that was 25 years ago. We're still here. And we don't, it the infrastructure still is not there to help level that. But the secondary partner to that is it also is not there in our largest urban areas because of affordability. Our lowest home incomes also don't have access to high-speed internet at home because they can't afford it, because that provider's high-speed internet in their home or their apartment's over $200 a month. Well, that's groceries for a week. So guess what? Go to McDonald's and do your homework or whatever free public access. And those are our realities that I'm facing with our own students. And along with that, the purchasing power. Our small rural districts don't have the same purchasing power to have one-to-one devices in each classroom versus floating carts. Those are things that continue to impact equity in education as a whole. But then it also becomes that digital divide. Even access only with a singular browser-based device, such as a Chromebook. If our students are one-to-one Chromebooks, but they never interact or engage with an actual functioning processing PC, we're still not doing our learners a service, because when they get to your campuses or out to our workforces, there isn't a business model or college in the United States relying on a browser-based tool such as a Chromebook. They still don't have any knowledge of where does a file go when I save it? How do I connect this device to a printer? What is file management and what does it look like? And how do I save a document whenever it's not being saved automatically? And those sound elementary, but those are work skills that we, when we're deploying Chromebooks K-12, miss for our future collegiate students and workforce students. And so, but if you can't afford teaching labs in addition to one-to-one devices, that digital divide for us, those are the areas that I feel like we're still not nearly where our potential should be.
I would agree, Michele. I think one way that Tennessee combated that was requiring a computer science as a high school graduation requirement. So, being able to work with our K-12 district partners from a higher ed perspective, how can we help you meet that requirement? Because I think we also see in rural West Tennessee the lack of digital skills and helping to build those foundational skills. But I think the second component of that, and I think in higher ed we sometimes forget this, is providing technology support for our students, because having them stand for 30 minutes on hold trying to get somebody at the help desk doesn't work for a K-12 student, even more so now that they don't have access to a cell phone. And so we've limited their ability to then engage with that online course. And so I think it just comes full circle. It's like little tentacles. But yes, I think addressing the digital skills is where it starts.
Yeah, digital skills and AI literacy, right? So those are two hot areas right now. I will say in Missouri, so kicking off in 2024, there's a very similar, Michele, to your topic, is a 5-year, $1.7 billion plan. They're calling BEAD, Broadband Equity, Access and Deployment. I put it in the chat there. So there's that effort going on, but I'm sure there have been efforts over time, and we just keep trying. I would also, to address your previous question, Alex, you kind of talked about are there other issues that are not technology based, right? And certainly in the article that I posted in the chat as well from NPR, some of that talked about the 3 queuing system and how that's being banned in the state of Missouri, and how certain reading methods are now being promoted, and there's money being put behind retraining our teachers in the K through 12 space. But that also has impacts right up into higher education, where hopefully the universities are looking at this, right, and paying attention to what we should be teaching the teachers to be aligned with this network of governance in all of the states that they will be placed within. So yeah, it definitely does go beyond just the technology, right? There's a lot of other areas, including homeschooling, access to public school services here in the state of Missouri. And apparently hiring chaplains and having religion in school is also a thing. So yeah, it just keeps rolling every year, right, in terms of what's new.
Yes, yes. And so, I think part of the work and part of the question in terms of, guiding policy is like closing gaps, right? Whether it's resource gaps, people gaps, just, gaps. And for instance, in Delaware, there are state broadband offices all over the country focusing on ensuring that, that the communities are covered. Last year, for example, Delaware invested over $17 million, I believe, in high-speed internet, expanding high-speed internet access. But there's work in place to close, infrastructure gaps. They're targeting households. There are about 85% of households that are falling into the covered populations, those low income seniors, veterans. And so a lot of emphasis is on the digital literacy, digital skills. I like to call them durable skills. Because it's the literacies, right? Computer literacy, information literacy, media literacy, digital literacy, AI literacy. And then for the next thing on the horizon that I've been talking about a lot are future literacies, right? Which encapsulate all of the literacies, in my opinion. So in Delaware, there's been this aggressive move to close the digital gap, because it's not just about a computer or a handheld device. It's, what do we do about, how do we reach those rural populations, because they are. And so that is the ongoing conversation. And there's various entities in governance that are paying close attention, because that's their area of focus. Sorry about the tickle. Does anyone else want to jump in about what's going on in their state?
I'd like to jump in. It's a little different approach than what you've been talking about, though. The thing that I don't hear people talking about is teacher preparation, including preparing them for technology, but more so educational leadership programs. I've been fighting with educational leadership programs in Texas who are bound by the certification requirements in the state, and the certification requirements haven't changed to have educational leaders understand high quality online learning. I mean, Michelle's been using that language a lot, and I love it. It's my language too. But the focus of helping to prepare teachers. I mean, we're talking about doing all these changes. Al, you're talking about future oriented. How are you preparing people who are supposed to be the leaders to be and understand how to do those things? And until we get that, and we have to affect that as a policy change, and that means getting policy leaders, policy teachers to understand the issues. And in Texas, we did get a focus to the state policy people to understand that they needed to include some language for teacher preparation, but it hasn't trickled down to the certification requirements, which are still the thing that drives what instruction happens. And until we get those changes done, we're still going to be stuck with policy leaders who don't understand what high quality online learning is.
Yeah, I agree, Ray. And I think that it's not just a policy issue, but an organizational leadership issue. Uh, because these are conversations that need to be had, for example, in higher ed at the programmatic level, the curriculum development level, in coordination with your individual state, right? And so, and also be inclusive of the market requirements. You know, what is the market? What do teachers need to teach in the future? We don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, right? But we can say, we can look, it's like updating policy. If a policy has been on the record for about 20 years and technology has been moving forward, and I'm just specifically looking at technology policies, then that's a problem right there. Now, why have those policies not been updated or adapted or modified in any way? Those are the questions that we need to ask, right? So sometimes these changes that are lagging, there's a lot of innovation going on in one ecosystem, but not in another, and the two never shall meet. There's a reason for that, and it comes down to people, and the right people need to be seated at the table to have these coordinated conversations so that we can try to address, not necessarily solve, address the problems that are happening and the problems of tomorrow, because it's only going to get worse. You know, if we have this bottleneck of certification requirements that haven't been updated, and there's a group of people that are really interested in being teachers of tomorrow, but they're studying different things. You know, maybe there has to be a way where you can recruit those qualified individuals. But sometimes certain parts of a system are archaic. So, you know, the question is not how do we change the policy? It's like, okay, well, we have to go to the root level. Who's involved? And so that we can talk to those individuals and, and get people to think about how to make those changes or what changes are necessary.
Ray, if I may ask, have you also seen a shift with your EPP departments to more competency-based programming with regard to growing your own educators?
No. Short answer.
We are seeing that shift.
It's driven by the certification. And until the certification changes, we can get people to do nice little things in their instruction, but certification, at least in Texas, and what I see in other states, certification determines what the curriculum is in higher education, relates to any part of education. And until we get policymakers at the state level who have experience with online learning, with high quality online learning, rather than just everybody had some experience with emergency teaching during the pandemic. And that did not help us because we had school leaders who said, oh, well, here, use Zoom and do what you normally did. That's crap. We need to be talking about what constitutes high quality online learning, and to have policymakers who understand that. Because when you look at most of the policymakers in the world, generalization, their experience was K-12 in class, teacher talking at the front of the classrooms. And now they had maybe good experience, maybe okay experience. But what is their experience with online? They've heard stuff. They've heard about kids using phones. They've seen what happened during COVID when people did not understand what was going on. And we meaning USDLA, the online education people focusing on these issues, need to be better at communicating that, but getting policy leaders into the classrooms, the online classrooms, to understand what high quality online learning looks like. We've got standards. We've got QM. We've got national quality standards. We've got a bunch of standards out there. We're not doing a good job getting that out to everybody. We need to be doing that better. So that's a state chapter responsibility, I think.
I would say, I think that is exactly why USDLA, as part of our new strategic plan, is really hoping to drive more into the K-12 arena, because we realize that is a gap, and an opportunity as well. And Valerie's popping on board, because we've had this discussion in our meetings numerous times. How can we engage and make improvements? How can we be of assistance? And Ray, you would be great to join our state chapter lead meetings. We'd welcome you to join us each month as we roundtable. But I think you bring some great ideas to the floor. Yeah. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share and from another state? I know our time is winding down, and I don't. Every other state is just doing great things. No red flag.
Nobody else wants to talk. It's like, no, don't talk about it.
I just did have a question though, Ray and Erica. So to change the teacher certification, the requirements, it would take, collaboration between educators and the departments of state, right? So, how has Texas, I'd like to learn, like, what is Texas doing to facilitate those conversations? Or
They're not doing anything at the moment.
Oh,
that's the part of the fight. There is some language in legislation which got passed last legislative session about doing that. Nothing has progressed since that time. And I don't see it happening easily, because you're saying certification people talk to teachers. I don't see that. Certification people talk to other certification people. They don't get involved in thinking about that. I mean, our certification requirements now connect back to ISTE standards. Oh, great. But ISTE standards haven't been updated in the thing. And we've got everybody that's supposed to be complying with Title II, ADA in a couple of weeks, well, a couple of months. And who knows about it in K-12? I've been beating that horn for a couple of years. And I was beating the horn on accessibility before that. But take a look at what's happening in teacher preparation, look at what's happening in leadership preparation, and you don't see that information getting out. And until we start beating the drum on this and focusing on it, we're not going to change things much.
Valerie, a suggestion, but maybe we could convince somebody from CAPE to join us. Our accrediting body is CAPE. Maybe they would love to come to the table and address this question with us. I
would love to see this conversation continue. I did pop in because I just want to be respectful. If anyone does have to stop at the top of the hour, it is almost the top of the hour. I never kick people off the lawn. You all know that. So this recording does not self-destruct at the top of the hour, but I do want to thank people who attended. And we can continue after this. But I did want to just thank people that and part of this conversation, we will be having a lot of this type of conversation at the conference. So before everybody sneaks out entirely, I want to put a code into the chat. If you can come to the conference, or we do have 2 days of virtual programming as well, because we understand that some people cannot travel right now for various reasons. But if you do want to come to the national conference, either on site or virtually in any manner, we want to give you 10% off just for being here with Public Policy Week this week and helping us to have these conversations. And I will let you all continue your conversation, but we will be having a lot of discussion around these type of topics and a lot more K-12 at the conference this year. And so we actually have an entire day that is dedicated to it, along with some other items. If anybody wants more information about that, you can reach out to me or anybody at USDLA. But I just wanted to get that message in. And I also just wanted to say a quick thank you in case any of you on the panel needed to pop off right at the top of the hour. So I wanted to sneak in my thank yous for that before we did it. But yeah, I think all this I'm curious with the discussion you all are having, how it's how we keep the conversation going across states now that everybody's kind of in a free for all and figuring out. And I think that's part of the challenge that people I've talked to is kind of like, we're not really sure what's going on yet. And so we're kind of in a holding pattern, which is not the best place to be.
Oh, sorry, Valerie. I actually do have to jump off. I have a 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And so thank you all. I hope to see many of you at the conference, and we'll be seeing some of you in the next couple of weeks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michele.
And for our other attendees, if you have an interest in starting a USDLA state chapter, feel free to reach out. I would love to roundtable with you. We've had a growth in our state chapters, and I truly appreciate Emily and Alex, who've done a great job with the addition of their state chapters. And Ray, it's very nice to meet you. I've never had the opportunity.
Nice meeting you. I sort of hide in the background a lot of times, although when it comes to accessibility,
but he knows more than he's one of my go-to people. So
well, you're no longer a secret because we've got you on the recording.
That's right. You're out in the open now.
Oh dear.
But yeah. I actually was thinking of you, Ray, because we have a school here in New Orleans. As you know, inner cities, we have so many wonderful things going on with our education, especially in New Orleans, which turned over all of its public schools to charter schools after Hurricane Katrina out of necessity because there was nothing here. But the public school system has started to take back some of the schools to run them at the district level. And one of the schools, which is in a building I went to school in, actually, so I have a particular sort of love for that location, I guess. But they recently, because of some mismanagement, the school board was going to have to close the school. It had only just reopened about a year ago. It's named for Leah Chase, a name that might be very familiar to people. And so the school was going to close, and it's only staying open because one of the families, there's a young man who goes to school there, and he is severely disabled. Even when I went to school in that building, it must be something about that building. We had one of the few disability programs in the public school system in New Orleans at the time. But he, for the first time last year, received quality education at this school, and now it was going to close. And through some sort of miracle, his grandmother is donating $2 million to keep the school open. So thankfully, he and some other children will have the benefit of continuing to be able to go to school there, at least for a few years. But yeah, we got a lot of work to do.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you so much.
Nice to connect and chat. This was a wonderful panel, and look forward to seeing you all next time.